Imagine waking up in the Victorian era, where the first thing you'd feel is the crushing grip of a corset squeezing your ribs, making it hard to breathe. And that's just the start of your day. Education is a luxury you likely won't have. Your job options are grueling and thankless. And your future is controlled by a husband who owns not only your property but your very identity. The romanticized world of lace gloves and ballgowns quickly shatters, revealing a reality where survival as a woman isn't just hard. It's nearly impossible. Could you truly endure a life where your freedom, health, and very existence are constantly at risk? Let's find out. Act 1. The corset, a symbol of beauty, a cage of oppression. Our first stop is your wardrobe. Before you even think about stepping out the door, you'll need to squeeze into a corset. This isn't just any piece of clothing. It's a device designed to sculpt your waist into an impossibly tiny shape. The goal? To create the ideal hourglass figure that society adores. The laces tighten around your rib cage. Breathing becomes shallow, and you can't help but feel lightheaded. You remember reading somewhere that fainting couches were popular in this era, and now you understand why. But the corset isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. Prolonged use could deform your ribs, compress your internal organs, and cause long-term health issues. Despite the discomfort, you're expected to smile gracefully because beauty is a woman's most valuable currency in this world. But let's move on, shall we? The day has only begun. Act 2. Education or lack thereof. As a Victorian female, your education or lack thereof is another obstacle to survival. While boys attend schools to learn mathematics, science, and history, your curriculum is much more limited. Your lessons focus on accomplishments: sewing, embroidery, piano playing, and basic literacy to pen a charming letter. If you belong to the upper class, you might attend a finishing school where you'll learn to curtsy, host tea parties, and engage in polite conversation. If you're part of the working class, education is rarely an option at all. Instead, your childhood might be spent in factories or as a domestic servant, working long hours to support your family. The idea of women pursuing higher education is laughable to most Victorians. In fact, many doctors argue that too much intellectual stimulation could harm a woman's delicate constitution. Imagine hearing that your desire to learn could ruin your health. Act 3. Work, a double-edged sword. If you're not born into wealth, survival means work. But as a Victorian woman, your job options are grim. Domestic service is the most common route, and it's grueling. You'll wake before dawn to scrub floors, polish silver, and cook meals for a household that barely acknowledges your existence. Factory work is no better. You'll endure long shifts in poorly ventilated spaces, exposed to hazardous chemicals and dangerous machinery. Childcare? You'll work as a governess, living in someone else's home, raising children who aren't yours, and never quite fitting in with the family or the servants. There's little room for advancement, and wages are barely enough to survive. The concept of labor rights? That's decades away. And let's not forget the stigma. A woman working outside the home is often seen as fallen or less respectable. Even if you're toiling away to keep your family fed, society judges you harshly. Act 4. Marriage, the only respectable option. In Victorian society, marriage isn't just a milestone. It's your primary goal in life. But let's be clear, love is rarely part of the equation. Marriages are often transactions, uniting families for financial or social gain. As a woman, your dowry, appearance, and obedience are your most valuable assets. Once married, your husband has complete legal control over you. You have no right to your property, earnings, or even your children. The law views you as an extension of your husband, not as an individual. Now imagine you're trapped in an unhappy or abusive marriage. Divorce is nearly impossible. For a woman to leave her husband, she must prove not only his infidelity but also cruelty or abandonment. And even then, she risks losing custody of her children and being ostracized by society. For many Victorian women, marriage feels less like a partnership and more like a gilded cage. Think about this. Victorian women lived in a world where even their breath wasn't entirely their own, stolen by corsets and suffocating societal norms. But here's the heart-shattering truth. Despite the resilience and quiet strength of countless women, many never knew freedom, never had a choice, and never got the chance to write their own story. What if you were born in that era? Would you have survived? Or would history have swallowed you whole, leaving your name forgotten like so many others?